Ladies and gentlemen, your innovation speaker, Mr. Hamish Taylor.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's lecture on the viscoelastic properties of sodium hypochlorite. Now, are there any chemists? No, that means I can lie. It roughly translates as, Madam, is your toilet cleaner able to last through the flush of the toilet or not? Because for the first few years of my career, that was the most exciting thing in life to me. As I started my career at Proctor Gamble, from there into consultancy for a few years with Price Waterhouse, then into head of brand management at British Airways. Great time to be there, lots of innovation, got to do some exciting things like putting beds into aeroplanes in the mid-1990s. From there to Eurostar. Now, what am I going to tell you about Eurostar? My first chief executive job, fantastic. The French, the English, and the Belgians working together in perfect harmony. Innovation. Very different worlds. You know, Procter & Gamble, Price Waterhouse, BA were at the top of their game. Innovation was how do we stay ahead? Eurostar, Sainsburys Bank, bit more of a problem. Innovation for me, let's have a look at it. I guess one truth that comes through all of them, and it didn't matter what level you were at, it was this. If you really wanted a breakthrough, if you really wanted innovation, the key was to get outside your own environment and look to other places. Because if your frame of reference is everybody else in your industry, you don't really innovate. You catch up with people. So, I mean, I'd seen it in new product development quite a bit, actually, particularly, I guess, the beds. You know, we wanted to do beds in British Airways. So what we had at the moment was a seat. So we brought in all the normal seat manufacturers, and they came in and gave us a lecture on their credentials. This is why we're going to design the bed for you. And they told us all about their expertise in seats. Impact resistance, fire retardant materials, all this sort of stuff, wiring there. Before you know it, there's 37 reasons why that will never, ever be a bed. Because it's a seat, and we design seats, and that's what we're experts at. So we gave up on that, and instead we went to a yacht designer, a company that designed the interiors of luxury yachts in the Mediterranean, and just said, play. And they played. And for them, it was about luxury space, but in a confined environment. What can we do? And they came up with much more radical solutions. Then we added the constraints afterwards. When we want to do the queuing at Terminal 4 at Heathrow, what do we know? We're an airline. We don't know a lot about queuing. So we thought, who does? Disney. They're brilliant at it. They get children to queue at the theme park. So I invited them over. I said, come to Heathrow. Come and show us. So they introduced us to the zigzag queue. Simple idea. You have one queue, you zigzag up and down. When you get to the front, you go to the first desk that's available. Obvious. You see it everywhere now. Coffee shops, super. In 1993, not one airport in the world was doing it. But Disney were, so they showed us. We stole it. Fantastic. So given that I know absolutely nothing about what you guys do, beyond I just about have worked out how to use my BlackBerry, what I'm going to do is going to take you into my world and pick up on 2 or 3 things that I've picked up about innovation that I believe are universal truths. Usually we're getting it wrong, as you'll see. So, you know, I work with lots of companies around the world at the moment, and it's always the same principles. And the principles work around the idea of a brand. But customer understanding, for me, is not about data. It's not about information. It's not about market research reports. It's about insight. Now, the second thing, if you're going to get those insights, what do you need? The first thing you need is to go out and observe the customer's world and spend time about it and just watch them. But the most important thing is don't go in with an agenda. Go in with a blank sheet of paper. Because if you go in with a blank sheet of paper, you never know what you're going to see. If you go in with an agenda, you've already decided what you're going to see before you went out there to look. And the second principle that I've always worked with that was really taught to me at Procter & Gamble is the idea of remembering, and we all know this, customers buy benefits, not products. But what does that mean for innovation? This actually, to me, is the most important thing, I think, in any innovation project I ever work on. And it works something like this. Customers buy benefits. Consumer goods companies will list those benefits. They'll say, if our strategy is going to be in the following, it's going to have a statement about what's in it for the customer, the benefit. It's then going to have a statement about the reason why they're going to believe that benefit. That's when we can talk about our product. And then we're going to have a tone of voice. So when you buy a Volvo car, what do you buy? Safety. It's the benefits about your safety. The reason why you should believe it, second one, is we'll talk about airbags and structures and whatever. The whole point was you had to base everything you did not on your product. It's not, here's our product, how do we make it better? It's, what's the customer benefit and how else could you do that? You also had this thing called tone of voice. Tone of voice. How you deliver the message as important as the message itself. That was something we learned very early on.
He's travelling overnight on the red eye. He had no choice.
Not first class.
Of course not. Company policy.
By the time he gets in, He'll be exhausted. And he won't have had time to incorporate those new figures I sent him in his report. He'll be hungry and tired.
I've arranged for the chauffeur to bring him straight here, not to the hotel.
Like a lamb to the slaughter, gentlemen.
Morning. New Club World delivers the businessman ready to do business.
Pleasant trip.
Yes, thank you. New Club World from the world's favorite airline.
And the key here was that the customer insight had come along that said, when do people notice a great business class flight? It's not at 35,000 feet on your fourth whiskey, though you may think so at the time. It's actually how you feel at 5:30 the following morning when you step off the plane and you've got to do a day's work. So the benefit became, we're going to own Arrive Ready for Business. Arrive Ready for Business is what we're going to be better at than any other airline. And to do that, yes, there's some product things we need to do. We need to be good at giving people more sleep or less hassle or helping them get refreshed. 9 words. Those blue 9 words became the core of everything we did and the core of why BA stole the business class market long haul in the mid-1990s. Because they based it on a benefit. And think the question you're asking now. Instead of saying, here's today's product, how do we make it better? You're now saying, Arrive Ready for Business. How else could you do that? It stimulates totally different thinking, and that thinking is grounded in the customer. But now, of course, you can start to play. So now's the bit that you can start looking outside to other worlds and other environments to pinch lessons. Because you know what you're pinching lessons about now. In case anybody hadn't worked it out, the next topic is communication. And, you know, you can pinch models of communication from lots of places like Proctor Gamble advertising or whatever. But I want to talk about one in particular. It was all very well to know what you're supposed to do, but sometimes taking that first step, getting started, is a bit difficult. So we actually deliberately started, every time we had an innovation that involved a behaviour change, we had 3 projects. What's the solution? How are you going to get ownership? But then another project called, how are you going to make it easy for people to take the first step? Because sometimes people find it quite difficult. But in 1997, when it came to Europe, it was the perfect make it easy product. I found it in Sydney Airport, and it's the boxes that you now see at airports. Very simple. Sir, I'd love you to take that bag on board. Nothing would give me greater pleasure, but there is a maximum size. So if your bag fits in the box, you can take it on board. If it doesn't, I'm sorry, I will have to tag it and put it in the hold. So blame the box, not me. But it became a great tool, and it's a great one to think about when you've got an innovation that does involve behaviour changes, is actually what am I doing to make it easy for this behaviour change, not just persuading people it's a good idea, how am I helping them take those first steps? So, kind of a little bit of a summary in terms of kind of my areas, because my clock here at the moment says 29 minutes, so I've got to get off in a minute or a trap door opens up or something, I think. Number 1 for me is always this business about how we get customer insights. Being smarter at getting into the customer's world than anybody else has to be the starting point. And that means we've got to invest time in it, and we've actually got to go out with a blank sheet of paper and just look. Then you turn it into a statement of, if I'm successful, what's the benefit to the customer? And base my innovation projects around that benefit, not around how do I improve my product. Then you get to play by looking outside and pinching ideas from lots of other places. And then, of course, you do the communication bit, or in my case, as I call it, the make it easy bit. Which was a very good lesson from my 4-year-old in not underestimating your customer and making sure you do actually get your customer insights right. My customer insights tell me that this clock says 31 minutes. That one has said 0 for at least a minute, so I better get off quick because you need to win some awards. So thank you very much indeed for your time this evening, and hopefully 1 or 2 things there.